Good morning. Tomorrow, January 21st, on a Tuesday, is going to be the day that Wear Chainmail to the Apocalypse is going to be available for sale. It'll be out there in the world for you to read and enjoy. You can actually pre-order it today, but you'll be able to get it on your Kindle or Kindle device tomorrow. So if you have a smartphone, you can download the Kindle app. You can read it there. If you have an e-reader, even better. But yeah, it'll be available tomorrow. So in order to celebrate, I thought I would read a section of the book. This is titled, Cancer Cure Kills Everyone. On the day the world went to shit, Dr. Geisler worked in his secret underground laboratory. The facility spanned several acres, and his lab happened to be in the basement. The lab was not configured for a mad scientist, with test tubes and beakers of various nonsensical shapes and sizes. No, the lab looked like an empty office, with rows and rows of unfilled cubicles illuminated by greenish humming fluorescent light. The walls painted eggshell white. Beyond the cubicle orchard, Geisler worked at a table. He had a desktop computer and a tablet. Next to the computer were two microscopes, one large and one small, and an igloo cooler where he kept his samples and lunch. File folders, stacked papers, thick reports clipped together, and lengthy spreadsheets covered the rest of his workspace. The wall near him was bare, except for a few photos of his girlfriend taped to the wall. She was attractive, he was not. He knew this, she did not. Geisler listened to Led Zeppelin on his computer, bobbing his head to Black Dog while he took notes on the morning report. He wrote his shorthand in the margins with a pencil. He circled and appended a question mark over suspicious results. The 10-year study had moved to a testing phase, which involved small animals. He did not do the testing directly. It was outsourced to another secure lab on the other side of the world. They emailed him a report at the end of their day, which arrived for Geisler around the time he poured his first cup of coffee. At the end of his day, he would send them more instructions. In this fashion, the work went on without pause, 24 hours straight, day after day. On Geisler's days off, he had two lab assistants, both MIT graduates, both older than he, who would continue his work. He left a stack of notes to work from. If they deviated even a little, they would be fired without hesitation and promptly replaced by more MIT graduates. Geisler alone would push his theories forward. They were merely an extension of his will. Geisler studied cell isolation, and he was close to something huge. His efforts potentially had three lucrative world-changing applications. The first application would save lives. Patients received chemotherapy. The chemo blasts all the cells, healthy or otherwise. It's a problem. You never know if you're killing the cancerous cells. You might miss some, and you take out so many healthy cells during treatment that patients wish they were dead. It's a shotgun blast approach to a problem requiring more elegance. With Geisler's work on cell isolation, chemotherapy would be significantly more effective. It's not a cancer cure. Geisler hated the word cure because it created a misunderstanding over the nature of something inherently incurable, but it's a treatment that works. The second application would end suffering. Pharmaceutical companies have a problem with their product. A drug may treat your irritable bowel syndrome, but it may also make your eyes water, your blood pressure plummet, and induce thoughts of suicide. Once again, the issue is cell isolation. The drug is in your system. It does one thing to one set of organs and something else to another set. Geisler's work created drugs without side effects. It would allow drug makers to go further than ever before. A pill for every problem, a prescription for every pain. The third application would kick ass. The U.S. military would love to use chemical weapons. Bug bomb an entire city and watch the evildoers crawl out of their holes and die. Chemical weapons are cheap, with a high profit margin, more dead, less overhead. Politically, chemical weapons are a non-starter. Chemical weapons like chemotherapy solve problems crudely and cruelly, striking down the righteous and unrighteous alike. Civilian casualties always get in the way of the perfect war. At least armed soldiers and computer-guided missiles created the illusion of tactical precision. But how about a chemical weapon coded to a specific DNA strand, targeting one person, gas an entire country, and only one bastard would kick over, two if he had a twin? Geisler's work gives the military such a weapon. Among the cancer foundations, the pharmaceutical companies, and the U.S. military, the military offered Geisler the most money. His research focused on building a better bug bomb. Cancer cures and painless pills would come later. The military's philosophy had been to leave Geisler alone. Let him do his billion-dollar work in peace, give him whatever he wanted, and wait patiently for the goods to arrive. Geisler nodded to the exquisite, brutal Led Zeppelin guitar riff. He looked over the numbers, frowning as he came across results that did not meet his expectations. It was as if the math behind the science, which has always been his to control, decided to form new rules and play without him. The numbers deserved a closer look. Geisler decided he would propose to his girlfriend once the testing moved into the next phase. He met Ashley when he was in graduate school. She was the younger sister of a colleague. She was 17, but smart enough to know she didn't want to date guys in high school. She saw Geisler as a successful, kind-hearted egghead who would provide a life of ease and adventure. Their relationship was affectionate, it was loving, it was a tad opportunistic. They moved in together a few months after she turned 18. Ashley had practically invited herself into his dwelling space. Both introverts, they enjoyed quietly sharing the same space as they worked on their own interests. Ashley read books on postmodern literary theory. Young as she was intelligent and always the top of her class. In contrast, Geisler enjoyed the work of ancient Greek philosophers when he was away from the lab. They lived comfortably for many years. The engagement ring waited in a safe deposit box while Geisler inched closer to changing the world. He would take Ashley to dinner and then propose to her in front of the house she had been eyeing for months. Geisler covertly purchased the house as soon as it went on sale. Ashley did not know they already owned it. On the front porch, he would assume a chivalrous posture, one knee to the ground, back slightly arched, and ring held before her. She would say yes because Geisler knew never to propose to a woman if you weren't sure of the answer. They would be married. The only issue was timing. First, Geisler had work to do. Geisler went over the numbers. Something was off. He seized his IT calculator to verify. The results were better than anticipated. This was not good. Better than anticipated meant he missed something. He preferred everything happened exactly how I knew it would happen. In his work, anything slightly off could have disastrous consequences. Geisler turned the page and looked at the next column of results. Oh my shit. The agitated Geisler ran to the other side of his secret underground laboratory. Shit, oh my shit. He grabbed the phone and called his cohorts on the other side of the world. Stop the tests. This is what he would say. Stop the testing right now. Burn your findings and your lab and every damn monkey, rabbit, and rat you dared expose to this research. In fact, while you're at it, kill yourself. Do it for the sake of the world. Do not let anything you've done leave the room, not one molecule or protein strand, because whatever came from this research, it was an abomination. Geisler, the mega-sexy rock star in the science community, the mythical boy genius, what have you done? In the midst of his graduate studies, he was already being courted by numerous industries. He didn't just play divine creator with his forays into genetics. He slapped God's feeble hand out of the way and took over. Sure, he dabbled with false modesty, but it was apparent his fellow scientists were far, far behind. He knew it. They knew it. Soon he set aside any pretense, and indulged in arrogance with his scientific explorations and his dealings with his peers. He spurned awards, banquets, conference invitations, and all other accolades. He disregarded the work of others and actively poked holes in their efforts. Geisler was to be well paid and given anything he asked for. He was to be left alone. In exchange, his work would be without error, pristine. And it was, except once. This once. No one answered on the other end of the phone. He could have guessed. Geisler looked at the dormant television on a nearby cubicle. He knew when he turned it on, regardless the channel, he would see the abomination looking back at him. One step, then another. He reached over and clicked on the TV. The primetime news anchor, you know the one with the superhero chin and the smooth baritone voice, the one never shaken by global tragedy, looked completely devastated. He stumbled over his words. Millions dead, zombie-like hordes filling the streets, tearing people apart. No word from India, no word from China. What you see next may be shocking. Please send your children to another room. No word from the White House. They aired a video taken in Indonesia. People with rotting flesh were stumbling after others, attacking them, biting them. The person holding the camera abandoned his journalistic duties and ran. The radio shook wildly as he moved. You could hear his deep panting and mumbled cursing. Geisler turned the channel. It was footage from atop a building in Turkey, the people below, affected by Geisler's errant work, roaming the streets, attacking others who tried to escape. Once bitten, the victims would shake in orgasmic spasms. This would be stage 1. Then they would lie there as if dead for for an hour or two. This would be stage 2. The latency period. The victim does not die, more of a paralysis. Sometimes the biter would continue to tear at the victim. Sometimes he or she would lose interest, and they would look for more prey. The victim in stage 2 would quickly deteriorate, skin turning gray and loose, putrid. Sores and boils and rashes would cover the victim. Blood would bubble from the orifices. Cataracts would form over the eyes. Paralysis would then cease, and the victim would regain motor skills and start walking. That is, if the body wasn't so damaged during the initial attack. This would be stage 3, the viability period. During this period, victims would be aggressive, rabid, hungry, but never attacking another infected person. Instead, they formed packs and moved in unison, searching for prey. Brain functions diminished, but they weren't incapable. They could process basic sensory information, recognize movement. The brain of an infected stage 3 lost all linguistic abilities. They would snarl, moan, and grunt. No noticeable ability to communicate through gestures. A stage 4 must exist. We hope. At some point, these creatures must slow down and die. The disease should be fatal, either from lack of food or lack of water. All living things need water. Or the creatures should decompose to such an extent they could no longer function. Bacteria and maggots, the last hope for humanity, should work their magic on such organisms. Days, weeks, months, years. So far, no stage 4, no natural death has occurred. The stage 3 infected are disappointingly tenacious. They can manage, even when severely injured. Guns slow them, but rarely finish the task. Even a shot to the head is not a guarantee. You pretty much have to obliterate their ugly faces, smash the cranium to bits to get them to die. Decapitation always works. Bombs work. Fire works eventually. But do you want a flaming cannibal chasing after you for a few minutes? Probably not. Black Dog ended, rousing Geisler from his stupor. He checked his phone, which he kept on silent mode. 20 missed calls from Ashley. Geisler called her back and explained everything. He explained as best he could how his research and the subsequent testing released this plague upon the world. On the fly, he theorized the 4 stages. He was smart like that. He predicted the plague was airborne, flu-like, and also transferred by the biting. He correctly surmised that a small percentage of the population would be naturally immune to the disease, even if bitten. In time, these people would be the only ones left. The first wave of infected would be massive, with the virus spreading quickly. The waves that followed would be smaller, like aftershocks, but the virus would never go away. Finally, Geisler told Ashley she was beautiful and that he loved her. He told her about the engagement ring, the house, and his plan to propose. He told her he was listening to Black Dog by Led Zeppelin when he found out what happened. Such a great song. And then he hung up the phone. This is all I know of what happened. Ashley traveled down the East Coast on her bicycle, telling every community she could about her genius boyfriend and his work in the secret underground laboratory. She talked about their love and how much she missed him, the romantic mad scientist who bought her a house. Eventually, Ashley succumbed to the disease and died, but the story was passed along until I heard it one evening, and now I'm sharing it with you. The story could be complete bullshit. I have no way to verify it. No fact-checking, sorry. The story is apocryphal. Let's go with it. I'll take it over biblical judgment, evolutionary misstep, voodoo curse, or alien invasion by way of biowarfare. What happened to Geisler? I suspect one of those military officials got a call from someone with the power to have Geisler killed. That person probably knew this was the scientist's fault. That official walked to the underground laboratory and asked if Geisler could do anything to stop the virus from spreading to the United States. Geisler could not. Then there was nothing left to do but kill the gifted scientist. After the reports came in of this virus spreading across the Eastern Hemisphere, America closed its borders. The Navy and Air Force were instructed to shoot down any private planes or boats heading toward our country. The U.S. military was not deployed overseas to render aid. Military stationed abroad were never to return home. The event happened so fast, many countries, India and China included, blinked out of existence. Russia dropped nukes along its own Asian borders for no apparent reason. Pakistan and Israel were charred to nothingness. Europe fell fast too. Africa was the last to send out word to the Americas. Please help us. Then everything was quiet. No communication came from the other side of the world. They were simply gone. The U.S. refused to send planes over the infected continents, but satellite photography revealed a horrific tale. Most infected, many dead. The fractional few still alive were without hope. Here in the United States, everything was on hold. Wall Street closed its markets indefinitely, knowing that to go back to business would be meaningless. People rushed the banks demanding their money, but the banks were closed. The NRA ranted about how the Second Amendment could have saved Europe. Evangelical churches anxiously waited to be shot into the sky, raptured to meet their Savior. The price of gas skyrocketed. Grocery stores were looted en masse. Riots broke out in the cities. Police departments set up checkpoints along the highways, not letting anyone go anywhere. The president begged for sanity, but the power grids began to fail, and people were like, yeah, right. The virus came to America. It found its way to our shores, just as pollen from a flower or ashes of a volcano can travel hundreds of miles on the breeze. East to west it spread. Within a day, the whole country was infected. How something can spread so fast, I have no idea. We were prepared and still caught off guard. And like that, the world ended in chaos and confusion. Brother against brother, we all turned into monsters. It was the worst of all possible endings. How can you imagine the end? However you can imagine the end, it was much worse. Is this a cautionary tale about the hubris of science, the unchecked ego of corporate and military interests? Did God not like getting his hand slapped? Did he decide to slap back? I don't care. This is not the story I want to share. I want to tell you about what happened next, the world after the world ended. It's a story about 4 brave knights who rescued me. It's about a king's downfall, a bold queen who led us to the promised land, and a beautiful princess with a pet chicken. Who am I? I am the narrator. My name is Tom. Who am I? I'm the narrator. My name is Tom Honeywell. I wrote for a public relations firm in Dallas. My epic tale started when I did the dumbest, dumbass thing one can do at the end of the world. I woke up, got dressed, beige slacks, navy gingham shirt, loafers, and I went to work.